going to be. Really made that a bit more clear.
Yeah, I mean, I
had a couple
like
of nagging problems, but overall, it was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I'm going to say. There's a lot of, there's a lot of man called horse in this. And if you have a problem with man called horse, you're going to have problems with this. Which is effectively, we'll get into this, but that is effectively the idea of a man. Did you ever see the film A Man Called Horse?
No, I was just going to ask you what that is.
It's about a white soldier who gets taken by a tribe as a slave, but then he sort of grows and becomes a member of the tribe and earns their respect, and eventually rises to some amount of leadership within the tribe. So it's very much.
That's an old trope, though.
Yeah, no, it's a very old trope, but it has a very special place in a lot of Western canon. I think it's handled well in this, but it's everyone's mileage varies.
Yeah, I don't think I've had much of a problem with the flashbacks. Those scenes are always great and fun. The majority of my issues have always arisen from the present timeline.
Yeah. Well, it's a stranger in a strange land trying to find his way,
Yeah.
But let's save it for the podcast. Let me just close this. Get this up. Pull this up. And in a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, there are those who live on the sand world, farthest from the bright spot at the center of the universe. There are those who fight, those who seek control, and our hero tells his story in the book of Boba Fett. This is Full Stream Ahead, arg me mateys. I be your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, SPHR. And with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz. It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Okay, let's talk tonight's episode. Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 2. The Tribes of Tatooine. Boba Fett faces new challengers on Tatooine. Our director is Steph Green. Jon Favreau and George Lucas get those based on Star Wars by credits.
Favreau.
Noah.
What characters has he? Well, I guess he's introduced a few, right? So he gets created by.
Yeah.
credits.
Well, John. I mean, well, no. So it just says John. They have a weird. Okay, here we go. I had to get to the expanded credits. So this was written by Jon Favreau.
Oh.
Book of Boba Fett gets it created by for Jon Favreau.
Oh, okay.
George Lucas gets the based on Star Wars by. And Noah Clore, hardest working person in show business this week, is our staff writer. Okay, so let's talk about this episode because this is mostly a flashback episode. This is a very strong flashback episode. This is a back to tank episode. In some shows you have battle episodes. This one has back to tank episodes. But it opens up with the interrogation of the Order of the Nightwind assassin. And we see Chinnick Fand just basically, overpriced. You're buying the name is what you're buying, which I love.
Which ends up being true. Because
seemingly.
Or I mean, like, the fact that the droid came over and said, he will never talk, these guys are known to be blah, blah, blah. And just the threat of a monster turned him around. Like, I thought that was really strange.
Well, I guess it all comes into how you think of this scene, especially in the larger context, because the idea is he gives up the mayor.
All right.
But the question is, is it really the mayor who sent him? or
Oh,
whoever holds the mayor's leash.
huh.
So
Okay.
that's where it gets into that. And because, of course, when he goes to the mayor, when they go and they barge their way in, as they do,
Hmm.
they get, the assassin gets shot before he could incriminate anyone else.
Hmm.
Um,
I like that. Yeah, that may. Mm-hmm.
and even the mayor makes this point, where he says, "Hey, yeah, I serve at the pleasure of who's ever in charge. Question now is, my friend, are you in charge?" You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
which we then see in the second half when the Hutt twins show up. Because
Yeah,
with
that does put a
the
totally different spin on that moment because it seemed like so strange that they would build up the legend of these particular brand of soldiers and how you'll never talk. And then all of a sudden a threat. But you're right. What if he was delivering the wrong kind of information? But that, again, is at odds with my desire for the mayor to be the bad guy because he's so cool. And he's so
well,
calculated. He's always like, so I want the mayor to be the bad guy. So that's an interesting quandary.
you know what? I'm going to tell you this. It's the most evil person in Springfield is Smithers, because he has the ear.
Hmm.
And maybe he doesn't have the official power, but maybe he is far more powerful than anyone else. That's always that complexity to it.
Hmm.
There's have you ever seen the Coneheads?
A long time ago, but yeah.
Yeah, so David Spade has a character in there, and he's basically a sycophantic yes man. But throughout the entire story, it's always about him ingratiating himself in just the right spot, and in the end becomes the major domo to the head of the Conehead Empire. And it's like, it's pretty impressive how he plays his part. And in that sense, I do imagine the mayor being this guy, the people I serve don't come here. They drive through here, and I'm actually the guy who winds up having the power because I'm the guy on the ground.
I'm the facilitator.
Exactly. I run the show, and I'm not going to say that I'm in charge. No. There's a guy above me who's in charge. You kill me, they're just going to put someone else in charge. And I imagine that might have been what Bib Fortuna's deal was. That Bib Fortuna wasn't the new Hutt. He was just the person who took the Hutt role. Coughed up. He did what he had to do, but he got to sit on the throne. He got to have the Huttese feast.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what any mobster wants. They don't necessarily need to be. They don't need to be Al Capone, so long as they get to be a respected wise guy.
Yeah, I guess the smart ones always have someone to blame and someone to shift the responsibility on.
Yeah, I mean, and and someone to give them ideas to move up the ladder. It's exactly what we're dealing with here is, I mean, on every level, I feel like there's a lot more going on in this story than we're seeing. And I do think that Boba Fett, in many ways, is caught flat-footed, and he's meant to. He's meant to be this guy who feels, okay, I'm going to take over the mob and I'm going to run it right. And it's a little bit of a criminal version of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, where, he's filled with these ideas of how a proper syndicate should run. Fennec is like, man, I don't see it, but he's playing his cards, and we see what the influence was, which is when he is with the Tuskens, and he comes to understand the Tuskens. And, you have this idea of the way the syndicates are running roughshod over Tatooine. I believe that's the Pike Syndicate is what they call those guys. They are coming in. They've got this hover train moving whatever the heck it is that's of value on Tatooine, which is that interesting. It's like, what exactly is of value on Tatooine? that the Hutts want it and the Pike Consortium want it, and people are here, and it's like, what exactly is the value of Tatooine, aside from the fact that it did produce both Vader and Skywalker,
Right.
and will eventually become, the home of Rey. It's
So was that just a drug train?
I don't know, because they have spice aboard,
Right.
but it didn't seem like it was a spice train.
There also didn't seem to be many passengers, just a crew.
No, it's very, yeah. It seemed, and again, like I said, that
The freight train, I guess. So
yeah, like what is it moving? What is it doing? And why are they shooting at the Tuskens?
right.
And
So
there is
either
the
it had other
possibility-
freight on it, or it was just all filled with spice.
or it had just unloaded and now it's on its way back.
Oh.
That's the other option, is that it goes one way and then, and
So
honestly, what it could.
In the Star Wars universe, is spice as valuable as or is it just another substance that's people get high on?
I don't think it's as valuable as it is in the Dune universe, because spice is what allows the ships to fly. But I think it is valuable in the sense that cocaine is valuable.
Okay, gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
it's like it's something that is, and it's something that's hard to get.
Right.
I think that's the real.
Is that what makes
selling point of
Tatooine
it.
special? Is that spice predominantly comes from there, or one of the few
Well, no,
places
because
spice
it's
comes
actually
from?
supposed to. They always say it's from Kessel,
Oh,
so it sounds like Kessel's like the main source of spice. So I don't know.
Okay.
Although based on the lizard we see in this, it's a little hard to tell exactly what is here and what is not. That I think is one of the most interesting aspects of this is, why is Tatooine valuable? We know it has moisture. And, I just picked up today. I was so happy. I was at my comic book store. And you know what they had in there? I got these for free. So
Oh, wow.
go to your local comic book store. If you're a regular customer, they'll just give you VHSs for free if they have them.
You have a VCR?
I do have a VCR. I have to rehook it up, but yes, I have
wow.
VCR. I have got like a couple VCRs.
Right,
I got
right.
Ice Pirates. Have you ever seen Ice Pirates?
What is it?
It is a film about a distant world it's a sci-fi film where basically the most valuable resource in the universe is water. And so basically everything about all transactions is this water, and there's like one planet that has lots of water, and so they're like the richest planet in the galaxy. And the ice pirates are, because of course if you freeze the water it's easier to transport, so that's why they become ice pirate, and they have the ice pirates, and there's this whole thing, and they're looking for the third world, which is the world that is also another water world. Which when we get to the end, it's a big reveal. I won't reveal it, but anyway,
Do you think it's possible
so I
to
do wonder
transport
if
water as gas? Like
it
obviously
takes up a lot more space if you transport.
that
it
the
as
space
gas.
would be your only consideration. I wonder.
Yeah, no, the easiest way to transport water would probably, if you're not going to transport it as liquid, it would be as ice. And if you're traveling through space, I can imagine that it's easier to cool the water into ice.
Oh, yeah,
than
fair
it
enough.
is
Right.
to keep
And if it was like some sort of giant
So,
like
you know-
bladder or balloon of some sort, that would maybe be more easily ruptured.
Exactly, and you don't want to lose it. So
Right.
carrying it as these massive blocks of ice probably makes more sense. But anyway, and maybe that is what Tatooine is, because again, as they say, Tatooine used to have water, used to have oceans. And we get that in this story about the Tuskens, how the Tuskens are the ones that have survived after the water left, after the water was lost. These are the ones who found a way to survive and to continue. And that is their legacy. That is their history, even as other beings have come to this place to farm the moisture that is on Tatooine, because it does have this value. But the Tuscans find ways to survive. In fact, they even make this point about how you live off the milk of the. I don't think. Did he say? Did they say they'd give them a bantha for the milk so that they could survive with the bantha for the milk?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was
yeah,
just
when
from
when,
the
when they
gourds
take the
that they
train.
found,
Yeah.
or the gourds
It's
were just bowls. No, they
No,
found
they
water
might have had
in the
water in
gourds,
them
right?
too. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what they gave them, but and that's one of the things. Like you'll live off its milk. But anyway, that's getting ahead of the story. What did you think about the fighting with the bikers?
I thought that was really cool. It got to see like what you want to see, like a Mandalorian do. Just come in and just like kick everybody's butt. So I thought that was a really cool scene of him just like cleaning house.
There's an
And he got to
interesting.
use his new like green belt stick.
Yeah. There's actually an interesting aspect of this, which I found, which I only found out later. The two human actors, are actually actors from A New Hope who got cut.
Huh.
And I want to say that's Biggs and Mara.
Are they the
And they're
same
actually Luke's
actors,
friends.
or are they the same characters?
It's the same actors, and they're
Oh
playing
wow,
the
the same actors too. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, they're actors. What else are they doing? And
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
is it? Yeah, how you got cut
Yeah,
from
you
Star
know
Wars?
who would
Would you
look
like to be back in
exactly
it?
like a grown-up version of that? Me.
Yes, exactly. So they brought them back, and we finally get to Tashi Station for our power converters, and it's a bar with the bikers, and they and of course Boba beats them up and steals their bikes. I certainly hope this will have no downstream consequences later on.
Well, I mean, I think those consequences were headed towards you anyways. Might as well get some loot.
Yeah, well, that's one theory.
I mean, that theory gets us from point A to point B, and point B is messing up that train. So hey.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. I mean, that's what that is the point of a short-term goal, I suppose. Is
I mean,
right now we have this problem. How do we solve this problem?
Right.
And then
right now we don't have the luxury of that long-term goal right now. Let's worry about making it. Let's worry about having an opportunity to do something about that third goal.
Yes. Well, we get a nice training montage with the Tuscans and learning how to ride bikes, and of course having to explain to them, no, these are bikes. You don't just trash them. You're not just looking for these aren't scrap I brought. These are actually useful speeder bikes.
So okay, so what does that say about the intellectual capacity of the Tuscans? That wasn't immediately apparent to them, that it just represented scrap to them, that they couldn't make the conceptual leap from scrap to, oh, wait a second. Yeah, you know what? We always see those and wish like, man, I wish we had that. The Banthas are cool and all, but be cool to zip around pretty fast too.
Well, except I think that most of the time that they've had interactions with them, it's when they've like crashed. So it's always been, anytime they've dealt with them, it's been as scrap.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I could see that. So
they know what to do with it as scrap. They've never really thought gee, could I ride one of these, because it's just not, it's alien to where they're from.
Right.
Is the idea, and maybe that's a failing on their part. I don't know. But, that's always the question, is what do they do with it? But, I mean, it's a lot of feel good, but, it's also a lot of lives that get lost in this quest to take the train.
But I mean, I feel like they already buried a bunch of bodies that they did not, from an engagement that they did not initiate, right? So at this point, it's like, do we just wait for them to keep picking us off? Or, I mean, like, at some point, do we got to say, like, hey, we are who we are, and you're not going to do that to us, Come on.
Yeah, and I think that is the strength of it. I think that's where Boba comes in, and he's like, listen, I can show you how to use these tech. I can show you how to use this tech. Because that's the thing. I mean, like the most they have is the rifles, but even still, their preferred weapon is the stick. That's their that's their weapon of choice. That is their batleth, if you will. And, they know how to use that. That is integral to their culture, as we see. The making of the stick is obviously a very important rite of passage within the culture. Um, and part of how they have continued their existence throughout these many millennia since the oceans receded. They, they do the training montage, which is a lot of fun. We see everyone having fun, and then it gets to be. Now, of course, before that, we do get just everyone getting killed. And
right. So that's what sets it off is like, to them, it seemed like it was like a mythical creature or something, and then all of a sudden they're getting shot at for no reason. I mean, I almost kind of see where the train is coming from. They're like, if they see bandits, they're just sending warning shots saying, don't you dare. So, I mean, there's something to be said for that perspective too.
Well, they're not exactly warning shots.
Fair enough.
They're clearly trying to pick them off. And that's the thing. And it's also, again, to go into that idea of the Old West and this idea of how, they would just send people out to kill the buffalo. And the argument was, well, if we don't kill the buffalo, they'll lay on the tracks and it'll derail the trains. So we need people to go along and just shoot all the buffalo from the moving train cars to make sure they stay off the tracks.
You take one letter off that, right? One letter off that word, and you can still accomplish the same goal. You just need to get somebody out there to shoo off the buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but obviously the intention was a little more, was probably a little darker than that. That's the problem. It's like, actually they kind of had a dark intention in all of this.
Certainly.
And that is always the problem.
Right.
Oh boy, but yeah, I like when they take him. When they take the train, I mean, although I like the little droid. The droid was fun. Our little engineer droid, just driving everything, trying to make the train go faster, which I don't know if that even made sense in that situation. It's like, when they're already on the train, what was your hope, But
I guess maybe the hope was to reach the destination faster and maybe on the way encounter defensive troops. But I don't know if they were close to anything, but that maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just do robots sort of panic and do irrational things? I guess they do in this universe because I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's Star Wars droids seem to be very, very advanced AI.
Yeah.
For basically, they seem to be fully human, except that, they can have their minds wiped and they are property. It's very interesting. The droid culture is very interesting in the Star Wars universe because it is clearly intended to be a droid culture, not a robot culture.
So droid meaning sentient as opposed to utilitarian?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, basically, rather than just being machines to do work. And of course, obviously, I'm just using common parlance, but usually an android is meant to be something that is much more sentient. And droid is from that term android.
Yeah, I thought android meant that it was like a human combined with a robot.
No, that's a cyborg. Yeah, an android is a fully robotic creature, but is meant to model humanity or androgyny, as it were, androness, which is humanness,
Right. Gotcha.
So that is the androids or the droids.
Yeah, is there established lore about the birth of droids or AI or how?
Not that I know of. And to be fair, it's always meant. I mean, Star Wars is always presented in a very quasi-mystical nature. In fact, that's always that interesting aspect of that, where, when we see the Tusken funerals, and they're very similar to Jedi funerals, where it's the burning of the bodies, and you have the pyre to release them into the Force, if you will. And although they are not Force users, as has been pointed out, the Force flows through all things. So all of the beings in this universe, they may not call it the Force, but they are aware of the flow of that spiritual energy if they are tied to spiritualism. Which brings us to the lizard. And, I love this lizard scene because, first off, he doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
It says, here's our gift to you. He will guide you. It says, well, great. Thank you for this lizard. I was waiting for him to say, I will treasure it always. I will let him guide me. And then it crawls up his nose. He's like, what? And it's like, he's going to guide you from in there. And then he goes and he trips, and we see the dune sea become the actual sea, which I think also equates for him to the oceans of the planet he was born on. I forget the name of it. When he was a little clone,
right?
And Camino. Thank you, Tristan. Yeah, that basically it's associating Camino with Tatooine, and both were once water worlds, and Camino is still a water world, we assume. And it is this tying him back to this idea of the water and life, and we see him become entangled in the trees, and in the trees there are the two trees, the little tree and the big tree. I've heard that as reference to the two native races of Tatooine being the Tuskens, who are tall, and the Jawas, who are short. To me, I think it's more about Jango Fett and Boba Fett.
Interesting.
As the little tree growing into the big tree.
Huh.
And he gets wrapped up in the branches, and then he's back in the Sarlacc. And it's about him busting out and breaking out. And eventually when he comes back, and for what it's worth, as has been pointed out, we don't see trees on Tatooine. And yet here was this tree, and he has a stick from it when he brings it back. And it's like, how does he find the tree?
So here was my thought.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I like thinking about sort of like these nitpicky kind of points. They're interesting. So my thought was that the lizard is multidimensional, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somehow when he gets in there, he secretes something that is able to allow him to traverse that plane into a different dimension as well. And in that dimension, that tree exists. Now, I don't know what the proxy of that tree would be here in this universe or whatever, but he goes to that dimension, breaks off a branch, and is able to come back to this dimension carrying an artifact from that dimension. That's the theory I like.
I accept it. That's headcanon. And then I like, they see and they say it's a good branch.
And the other thing is, like, somebody brought up an interesting point that I was reading online, where they're like, okay, so he was a clone, right? So he never had a birth. In this way, it was almost like he went to another dimension, died, and he came back, and it was almost like he was birthing into a real person.
Well, yeah, and I guess in its own way, it's the idea that he is birthed from the Sarlacc in this.
Right, that too.
When he crawls out of the Sarlacc, that's him,
obviously, right.
Re-coming into his own life and rethinking everything that he's been up until that point. He doesn't want to be a bounty hunter anymore. And now he is. In fact, that's one of the things that the mayor says to him. Says, you will find that running a family and being a bounty hunter are two very different skill sets. That you want to run a family, that's great. It is not the same as being a bounty hunter. And maybe you'd have been better off as a bounty hunter. Basically, is the not so subtle implication of it.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem on the surface that your skill set is way better suited to the job you were in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the question, and that's what Book of Boba Fett is dealing with.
Right.
I'm excited for where we're going with it.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going yet, but I love the scene where he's making his own. That's part of the ritual.
Right.
And it's sort of like the idea that When you're a young man in Bavaria, you have to go slay your own deer and make your own first pair of lederhosen by hand, because that's what makes you a man. You skin it, you tan it, and you make those little leather shorts. But in this one, you make a banta stick, and he makes a pretty good banta stick, I think. And then he does the dance because he's now part of the community. He's part of the tribe, and that's a nice.
It was more like a kata. It was more like a kata, right? Like in karate, like a series of moves like they have in karate, where you play through a narrative of fight in your head, like you do the whole and your multiple whatever opponents, and you play out the whole set. That's a kata. So that's it seemed like a dance, but a kata.
Yeah, I mean, I get that too, and I think it's a little of that, a little of capybara, a little bit of this is how we train. This is wax on, wax off.
Right, exactly.
These are these movements, and we remind ourselves what the movements are.
We are warriors. By doing this. You are a warrior with us now.
Exactly. I really enjoyed it.
So do you think the mayor is serious when he says he's just a go-between, a conduit of forces that work through the planet? Or is he more nefarious and more in control than that? Is the messages the messages meant to have like a psychological attack on Boba Fett? Were they intentional, or was that just his majordomo being like full of himself and enjoying the power that he has? I'd like to think that the mayor is really clever and he's playing 6 steps ahead and he knows exactly what's going on, and he exactly was the one that meant to kill Boba Fett. But he didn't want to kill Boba Fett. He didn't expect to kill him. He just wanted to see how tough he was. Maybe he's just testing the guy to see if he really is worthy to be the daimyo here.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think Boba passed the test, as it were. But I think from the mayor's perspective, I think he is. So remember when we were watching Daredevil, and remember when we first meet Wilson Fisk, and it is this idea that he always sees himself as just one of the players, and he's never putting himself above people. He's always trying to just show how he can help coordinate everyone, and sort of, and I kind of maybe that's what the mayor is he is planning his role to be the kingpin of Tatooine. Either that, or he's saying to him, look, man, you underestimate how important I am to whoever. If it's going to be you, great. If it's you, but you need to understand, this is not going to run unless you have me to run it for you. So just let's understand each other. And to be fair, that is actually probably way more a point of order than you even imagine. Yeah. And I think where Boba's intention to flip the script is Boba is going to be very much of the view of, I am willing to work with you. But maybe like it's that he's saying that he's willing to work with him, but you need to dismantle some of the structure. Maybe that's not what he's comfortable with. And yeah, I mean, I think that is the thing, but I also think that, I think it is one of these issues where it's less that he wants to dismantle everything as he just wants to make it less cruel. But maybe that's something the mayor relies on heavily. And he's like, okay, we're going to have to change things up a little bit. And that's what I think the mayor is coming from, saying, hey, I know you think you're revolutionary, but it's not as easy. And if you want to run it that way, it's not going to run. Trust me, my way works. Well, that's what Fennec's telling him too. I mean, that's sort of that's that big question is, can you be who we want Tony the Soprano to be? Can you be the wise ruler of the criminal syndicate? But if you are by your nature a criminal syndicate, if you are by your nature, and remember, this is at the dawn of the New Republic. That New Republic is coming.
Hmm.
And that is something that everyone's going to have to deal with, even in the Outer Realms.
Yeah.
And that is this idea of Boba coming into this moment, saying, we need to find a different way.
Yeah.
We need to find a better way so that we can. And in many ways, I always feel that this is what Jabba did.
Hmm.
Jabba was cool, but I also felt that Jabba played, like, I think that there is a lot to be told of Jabba. I think that Jabba gets that bad rap because he's a giant slug monster. But I think even when we see the two, I think Hutt culture could be a really deep well to explore about how the Hutts do things and how the Hutts approach things. Because I do feel that, like, there is this, because this is what I always say, when Han Solo gets in trouble with Jabba, it's because he dumped a bunch of guns. He dropped a bunch of weapons to avoid it being caught by the Imperials. Who does the Imperials worry about guns going to? The rebels. Jabba was running guns for the rebels. Jabba was actually central to the Rebel Alliance ability to function, because the only way you function in a Rebel Alliance is by making deals with the people who are going against the system.
Right.
And that, I think, is where it's an important aspect to look at. That Jabba was very well aware of what the power of the Empire was, but also was very well aware of both the profitability and the value of making alliances within the rebellion. And I think what Boba Fett is doing here is maybe looking for, as this new way moves forward, as the Empire has fallen, as the New Republic is starting to rise, how do we position ourselves in a better way to build a more longer lasting authority on this dusty old rock called Tatooine? And we're gonna have to see how it goes. I'm excited for the rest of this show. I don't know how many episodes we're getting. I'm imagining it's probably just 6, because that's all they give us anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure they were affected by their filming was affected by the pandemic, so probably just like every Disney Plus show, they had to make concessions.
Well, I think they shoot all this on a soundstage, so I don't know.
That's also true.
Yeah, it's actually one of the great things about this show is that they don't have to go to locations, because Tatooine isn't the location.
Right.
It's like, they've already built the holodeck for Mandalorian. It's like, we already got it. It's like we even have the stuff already built for Tatooine.
Right.
We've been there before, so it's interesting how that works. But
yeah, this episode sold me. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Good. I'm excited for it too. And with that said, I'd like to reach out to all of our friends out there right now and tell them that, we are a independent podcast on the Capes and Lunatics Network. We do a lot of work here, and we are hoping for your help to keep us going, as they say on NPR. And if you would like to help us, there's a few things you can do. First off, just write to us. Let us know you're out there. You can write to the whole company, Capes and Lunatics, at capesandlunatics@gmail.com. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and what your own thoughts on everything are. If you have any thoughts about the Book of Boba Fett or anything else we talk about here on Full Stream Ahead, call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Give us a call. Let us know your thoughts on what you feel about the Book of Boba Fett. Where you think Mozz and I are wrong, where you think we're dead on, and where your own headcanon has already taken you. We'd love to hear it, and we can even play it on the air if you like. And as I said, we are an independent outfit here. It's me and Mozz and Phil and Lilith and all the rest of the gang here at Capes and Lunatics trying to keep this all on air. And if you'd like to help us out, go to Linktree. That's linktr.ee/capesandlunatics, all one word. That's linktr.ee/capesandlunatics There you're going to find all of our merch for the Capes and Lunatics, for our shows, for various objects and items you can buy. You can also join our Patreon, where you can get exclusive member access, including participating in our worst superhero film of all time brackets, which we just started. And if you pay, I think, $5 a month, you get to watch the topless movie reviews, where we'll be discussing these superhero movie brackets. First up, the Marvel movies, going all the way back to good old Matt Salinger. So it'll be fun. All right. So with all that said, Mozz, if people would like to talk to you directly, how can they do it?
They can reach out to me via email at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, if you'd like to write to me that old-fashioned email way with the way our mothers and fathers once did, do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitters. I live tweet Naomi Tuesday nights at 9 on the CW at Charlie Esser. That's CHARLIE. Yes, SER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
All right, me hearties, you've made it to the end of another adventurous voyage with me and Mozz. Come back again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arr.
All right.
There we go. Thank you.